All right, let's move on to Avril Haines, and
So
then
I was under researched on Avril Haines. I was doing all this kind of late last night, and by the time I got to her, I started to get kind of burned out. I wrote a lot about Blinken and Fortnite. um, but basically, Avril Haines, she's going to be the director of national intelligence. And this position's kind of interesting to me because, unlike the other positions, which have a much longer history, the DNI, as it's abbreviated, has only existed since 2004. It was established by the National Intelligence Reform and Terrorism Prevention Act. And the director of national intelligence basically acts as a manager for the, quote, U.S. U.S. intelligence community, leads the national intelligence program, and serves as an advisor to the president. More interestingly, this position is responsible for preparing the president's daily brief of classified information from all government intelligence agencies. It is also in charge of protecting the rights of whistleblowers in the intelligence community. And that last part was really freaky to me. And I was reading into it, and I think it's mostly just a smokescreen. I think there was uh, it was established via executive order by Obama, and we all know that Obama prosecuted more whistleblowers under the Espionage Act than all other previous presidents combined. There was a lot of pressure to make it to create safeguards within the intelligence community to protect whistleblowers from retaliation from their superiors, so that whistleblowers will seek to correct the wrongs that they find within these organizations internally, so they won't go to news organizations. So there
uh,
was this, and basically Obama via executive order said, okay, well, I'll make the DNI in charge of that, in charge of making sure that these whistleblowers who are trying to make our organizations more ethical and less wasteful, to keep them safe. And I think it was mostly just a smokescreen.
yeah,
But
because
yeah.
yeah, because the whistleblowers that we know of, Assange, Snowden, Greenwald would be considered a whistleblower, I'm sure. They all don't live in this country because they're all under seeking asylum in other countries. Russia for Snowden and Brazil for Glenn, and I don't know where Assange is, but
Oh, Assange is in a maximum security prison, usually
excuse me,
reserved for murderers, rapists, and terrorists.
excuse me. Yes, I forget because it's so
But
ridiculous.
he's in
Yes,
England, so you're still technically correct.
so I assume they're trying to protect his rights by locking him up or something.
Exactly.
So so yeah, that should kind of tell you all you need to know about that one.
So with Haynes, I didn't look into a lot of it, but I thought it was interesting that this is the New York Times. Now, the New York Times has a infuriatingly respected reputation in our culture. It's supposedly like the gold standard of objective journalism, even though there's hardly been a single war that's taken place since the New York Times was founded that the New York Times did not endorse. It has consistently pushed propaganda for the Pentagon and for the CIA. Um, I remember the former editor in chief of the New York Times calling anyone who didn't support war in Syria as being dangerously isolationist. Like, what a fucking douchebag. Um,
As a quick aside, that there's
yeah,
proof that the LA Times has had journalists and CIA, like they run their articles by CIA operatives to make sure that it aligns with the narrative that the CIA and the um, intelligence community is trying to tell. And
Project Mockingbird.
there's proof that the LA Times has done it, so there's almost with certainty that the New York Times does the same thing, and Washington Post and Atlantic and literally every other news organization probably does the same exact thing. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Except the ones that they tell you are crazy conspiracy theorists. With the
Yeah.
exception of Alex Jones, because he legitimately is just a crazy conspiracy theorist. But
The
anyway,
nuggets of truth, but yeah,
yeah,
mostly crazy.
I thought that this article was really interesting. I didn't dive into it a lot more, which, I mean, given how long this episode is running, I think that's okay. But Avril Haines was the, I think, hang on. Oh, again, she would be the first woman to serve as the nation's top intelligence official. Where they keep on hammering this stuff to try to make us not be concerned. Where she, I think she was the secretary to the director of the CIA under Obama, or the deputy director. Jobs. She was also. Well, anyway, so I forget her official role. It's kind of shitty journalism on their part that they don't make that more explicit. This is the New York Times, people. But they admit that this woman, Avril Haines, was a major contributor to the Obama drone strike program, which, again, as Zach and I talked about earlier, 90% of the time killed civilians. And in at least two instances, but I believe 3 or 4, killed American citizens without trial and without making public any of the evidence that was used to internally justify their assassination. So she was a major contributor of that, and the New York Times is admitting that and saying, yeah, it's a little concerning maybe that she's going to be the most powerful intelligence official in the country. But then look what they do. So they introduce the topic that way. They say Biden picked to lead spy agencies, played key role in drone strike program under Obama. And when they do that, it makes it look like they're being adversarial, like they're actually fulfilling their responsibilities as the fourth estate to speak truth to power, to hold these officials accountable. But basically, you see there's two. So this first paragraph is just introducing the topic, and then they bring in the controversial stuff about the drone program, some of which killed civilians, 90% of which you fucking hack pretending to be a journalist.
Some of
but
which
then
killed.
Yeah.
Oh
then they immediately start to defend her. So we're 2 paragraphs in. This is the headline. Biden picked to lead spy agencies, played key role in drone strike program under Obama. Just 2 paragraphs in, they're immediately telling you to disregard those claims. By the 3rd paragraph, they're giving you all of her credentials, and then they only spend 1 sentence giving you her credentials, and then after that, they immediately start talking about how she also has one of the most interesting unclassified backgrounds of any top intelligence pick. She is a trained physicist,
a brown belt in judo. Pilot who nearly crashed into the North Atlantic with her future husband and a former cafe and bookstore owner who helped revitalize Baltimore as a community activist.
All of this is supposed to make you want to cuddle with her. She's supposed to be lovely. She's somebody that if you saw her on OkCupid, you'd be like, hey, you want to go get some coffee sometime? It's clear that she has eclectic interests, said John Brennan, the former CIA chief who picked her to be the agency's deputy director. Even, bohemian. So all of this is gaslighting to the left.
I can't. I'm trying to wrap my head around the husband, future husband. Okay, keep going, Cody. I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out why that's in the article.
If confirmed, Ms. Haines 51 will have to rebuild an intelligence community that was openly excoriated by President Trump over its assessment that Russia had interfered on his behalf in the 2016 election, and to depoliticize the office of the Director of National Intelligence. For all of our listeners, there is next to no evidence that Russia interfered on President Trump's behalf in the 2016 election, and they're still pushing this shit.
Yeah, so they're still clinging to after it's been debunked, if you will. They're so into fact checking and debunking, but then when it comes time to them doing it, they won't do it. So they're still clinging to the fact that Russia interfered in 2016.
Yeah,
And
and
it's crazy.
scrolling through the rest of the article, it's more just they're just all this is a fluffy, mostly friendly profile of Avril Haines. You see stuff like she will be Biden's principal advisor on intelligence issues, Mr. Bellinger said, that she has a long-standing relationship of trust with him will make her enormously influential. Um, and and all they're trying to do is make her seem friendly and kind of eccentric and quirky. You know, she attended the University of Chicago as an undergraduate, studying physics and working as an auto mechanic. She also began taking flying lessons from an instructor she would later marry, David Da Vinci. Um, like, okay, and then way here at the bottom, they circle back to years later, she was named deputy director of the CIA, and they don't talk at all about drones. Again,
Whoa,
so
whoa, whoa, whoa,
there.
whoa. No, 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 no. Go
Oh,
down.
sorry.
Go down.
Sorry.
Sorry, this is gold. I just
This
want
is
to read this
journalism.
quote.
This is the
In
most
one
prestigious.
session in
Sorry.
one session attended by a Baltimore Sun reporter, Miss Haynes kicked off the reading with an Anne Rice fairy tale and then gave the reporter a
Oh my
spirited
God. How did
defense
I
of
not
the
see that?
spontaneity, twists, and turns of erotic fiction. Yeah.
What the fuck? But
That
again,
is,
okay, so there was a single paragraph that briefly touched on some of the concerns over Avril Haines' connection to the drone strike program under the Obama administration, and I'm not even going to take the time to count. I'm not. Gonna, I'm going to spare our listeners
this
those.
is why I don't read the New York Times.
But yeah, so many paragraphs, the whole rest of the article, and it's not a short article. They're basically just tonguing her ass. Um, and and not to be hating,
Yeah.
but like look at the again, the headline of the article is Biden picked to lead spy
Mm.
agencies played key role in drone strike program under Obama. Like that is not what this article is about. It's headlined that way to give you the impression that, oh wow, I guess
It's
there are
going to
some
be
real
critical.
concerns. Yeah, and
Yeah.
so it makes you feel like, oh yeah, we vetted her. Yeah, and we're really asking the hard questions, but no. Like that is and this for anyone who's kind of new to understanding what Noam Chomsky calls the manufacturing of consent in the US, this is how they fucking do it. This is what is masquerading as journalism in our country. This woman
I,
is at least partly responsible for the assassination of a 17-year-old American citizen in Yemen. Like, let that sink in. There was a 17-year-old kid who's who was murdered by his own fucking government. She
but
was she was the deputy director of the CIA at the time. But hey, you know, she has some really interesting opinions about erotic fiction.
I was just going to say, but hey, she likes erotic fiction, so
She do
um, that is incredible journalism. I I'm having trouble just wrapping my head around that. I know this isn't supposed to be a smear session against the New York Times,
Oh,
uh,
smear away.
but it's so easy to do. I mean, just going through that article, it's just incredible that that's the state of journalism today. Is it's an article that they actually published like that. I don't know who wrote that, and I don't want to throw them under the bus.
Oh, let's do it. Let's do some bus throwing.
They are most likely making easily six figures writing for the New
Oh,
York Times. I mean,
easily.
most of their journalists do, I would assume, or if not all, making
Julian
very
A.
good money,
Barnes.
making very good money writing articles that that talk about her
Oh my God.
appreciation for erotic fiction. It's just incredible.
Oh,
Like it's so ridiculous. It's almost like it seems like it should be satire.
It
but
does. Like, how
it's
would the
not.
Onion, like if you
It's
wanted
like
to
an
make a
onion thing.
like it's like a Coen Brothers movie. Like, thank you for smoking. Burn After Reading. It's like that level of just fucking just fucking idiocy. This is his Twitter. Intelligence and national security reporter for the New York Times, former Wall Street Journal at the Pentagon and in Brussels. Stories. Um, let's see if we can find any nuggets from him.
Oh wait, that one's important.
Which
The
one?
the the director.
Where?
He was in the game. He was in Game of Thrones. It
Oh,
seems. Former deputy director David Cohen was an extra in Game of Thrones. Thanks, New York Times.
fucking kill me. Oh wow. Yeah, that's the guy. That's the guy.
Yeah, good for him.
I don't know. I kind of feel like if you're going to be in charge of the organization that is going to be illegally overthrowing democratically elected leaders throughout the world and spying on its own citizens, you shouldn't be in an extra in Hollywood productions. That's just me.
You know, this is your personal opinion, Cody.
Yeah. Yeah. What do I know? I'm just uptight. I'm a tight ass.
Yeah.
Okay, this is less entertaining. That I guess
So,
the Game of Thrones bit was interesting. Wait, here, Daryl Blocker, 28-year CIA veteran, under consideration. Okay, so his Twitter is not as interesting as I was hoping. CIA officer killed in Somalia, death likely to stir debate over future of counterterrorism mission there. That's a war that you just don't hear about. You don't hear about the bombs we dropped there. Not since
we're
the early
involved in 8
'90s.
of them. So,
8 now? I thought it was
are we?
7.
7. Sorry,
No,
I
I mean
added one.
it's difficult to keep track of.
Sure is.
All right, so I think we're a little over an hour now. I think I would say let's maybe talk about one more. I think Yellen is not that interesting to talk about. I would say either Tanden, Mayorkas, or Kerry, and I defer to your judgment.
Um, well, I looked up the last. I can run through the last two fairly quickly. They're mostly uninteresting. Um, I'll go ahead and crack at it. So Alejandro Mayorkas, he served um, as the director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services under Obama. We kind of all know at this point how that went. I think even Democrats will admit that Obama's. I mean, there's so much evidence that he deported more Hispanics than Trump, and his deportation policies were terrible.
They
And
admitted even on MSNBC.
yeah, they. I mean, they had to. They got caught, and so they won't admit it was wrong, but they'll admit that it did happen in so many ways. Um, so
Well,
he was
and
kind of
it's sorry to your point. I actually there are entire articles, basically acting as apologists for Obama's immigration policies. Not in as much that they apologize for it, but where they try to contextualize it and say, well, yeah, it sounds really bad to say that Obama deported more people per year than Trump, and several. If you compare first term to only term for Trump, several 100,000 more overall. They'll say, well, yeah, that sounds bad, but the reality is much more complicated. Let us explain it to you. And they do that thing, that Orwellian doublethink thing, where they basically try to take something that's really simple and straightforward. Oh, you guys are corrupt fascist motherfuckers. And they try to explain it to you in this overcomplicated way that makes it out like, oh, they're actually good guys, and you shouldn't judge them at the surface level. The reality was much more complicated.
yeah. Well, Cody, it's not quite as simple as you make it out to be. Is kind of how they go for it, and it works. It is double think. That's exactly what it is, and they try to get you all confused. And at the end of the day, once they confuse you, you kind of look at it and be like, oh, is it a good thing?
And
Kind of like we
they
talked about with Blinken.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
is it chaos? Will it come into chaos if we pull out of all these countries? And it kind of makes you sit there and like, oh, are they right? Um,
It's what happens when you forget that you're talking to a pathological liar, or that pathological liars are communicating to you. You have to constantly remind yourself and think critically about everything that they're saying to you, because they will prey on your gullibility. We all have an instinct, I think, to, maybe not all of us, but I think a lot of people, myself included, have an instinct to want to give people the benefit of the
mhm.
doubt,
Yeah.
and psychotically manipulative people take advantage of that.
I was just thinking that like it's not necessarily like gullibility. It's the fact that like there's a lot of agreeable people out there, and you know, so when Blinken tells you like, hey, it's going to come to chaos, you're just like, oh, well, yeah, you might be right, yeah, instead of staring him in his face and be like, no, you're fucking wrong. Most people's instincts kind of go towards like, oh yeah, you might be right, yeah, it might come to chaos. Well, we can keep our troops out there.
I really
Um,
wonder what sort of rhetoric Hitler used to try to rationalize the Holocaust, because I'm sure it was similar.
I don't understand German, and I don't think I don't think any of his speeches are in English. So, um, but I would be interested as well. I mean, his language seemed like, I mean, this is just the German language is just very harsh.
Yeah,
So
very
his speeches
abrasive.
always seemed like very direct, like boom, 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 and the American politician, it's sort of a a softer like this
Well,
is
it's the
just how
corporate
this is how we do
politician.
things, guys.
Our
What's that?
our politicians are, most of them are, they're basically corporate PR spokespeople
Mhm. Yep.
masquerading as public servants.
Yeah.
And
They're pretty
that's
good at it.
that informs their demeanor. That's why they talk the way that they do.
Yeah. Yeah. If
They're not
you
leaders.
yeah, a quick aside, you pointed out how Putin gives his speeches, and I imagine that Hitler was very similar. Um, in that
Much more
it's just very
evocative, but
direct to the
yeah.
point. No bullshit about it. It's very um, here's my point. You take it, or we might kill you. But
I don't speak Russian or German, but the vibe I get from Hitler and from Putin are very different. Where Putin seems to be like he's like talking to you at the bar, where he's like, do you really think that that's what's going on? Seriously? Are you that naive and gullible? Oh my gosh. Let me explain it to you. Let me explain to you what's actually happening. Um, like it's like you're having a beer with him and he's just kind of like drop, well, I mean, maybe he's lying out of his ass, but it feels like he's dropping knowledge on you at the bar. Whereas Hitler, it's very like old world national leader, like this pomp and circumstance, and I'm going to give these big loud speeches, and
Mhm.
um, yeah, but yeah, I mean, I guess to your point, maybe the words themselves are similar. I don't know. I should learn. Yeah, that would be interesting to study. Um,
Yeah. Uh,
anyway, Mayorkas.
anyway, yeah, they were. um, so I didn't have that much research on him. I mean, there's not too much to find. He did something interesting where he let his immigration policy was very um, prevalent towards letting in foreign business owners and giving citizenship and green cards to people who were specifically coming to the United States for foreign business, rather than people who wanted to come to immigrate here and make their life better. So that was an interesting point. I mean, at its surface, it seems like a bad thing, um, but I don't think he's a good guy. So he is Cuban American. So it's interesting also that he's deporting like Hispanics and he's Hispanic. So like you know,
But diversity, Zach.
yeah, but he is diverse. So that's cool. And just the last thing on him, he was also under Obama. I think he changed roles in 2012, probably with Obama's reelection. And he went from the director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration, and he changed to the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security, which is what he'll be under Biden, or he'll be the director of Homeland Security. And in that role under Obama, he focused largely on foreign government intervention and cyber attacks. So basically, whether you believe it's true or not, the Chinese or foreign government, Chinese, Russian, etc., attacks on U.S. companies, cyber attacks, right? So the logic kind of tells me that what they were going for with this was it kind of would help them expand surveillance under American companies. Just given that, if you're the U.S. government and you say to an American company, hey, these foreign people are committing cyber attacks on you, we need to help protect you. So we need your data, we need your information, et cetera, right? I have no proof of that. I tried to find some stuff, but there wasn't too much out there. But it seems kind of like the logical next step, right? If you claim that these foreign countries are attacking us digitally, cyber attacks. So anyway, it gives kind of a window into the data of American companies. That's kind of what I'm getting at. So anyway, any thoughts on Mayorkas? He seems like not the worst one of the bunch, but still.
I think it's just another example of Obama admin 2.0, the administration we would have gotten if Hillary Clinton had been elected, and another example of whitewashing the unsavory professional past of any of these cabinet picks, and focusing instead on the diversity and inclusion aspects of it. He was literally he was literally in charge of, immigration and citizenship, or citizenship and immigration services, under the administration that was deporting more immigrants than any other administration in history. And we're being told that America is back, unify, that all the damage done by Trump is going to be undone. It's like, no, like all the people you're putting in here, all the things that the media and mainstream politicians, especially Democrats, pretend they hate about Trump. All these people did the same things for Obama, and in fact did them more effectively.
Yeah, and you can only assume that they're going to kind of expand this under Biden. Like if you assume that either A, they won't do the same stuff that they did under Obama, or B, they're going to do the same, I think you're kidding yourself. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're going to try to really expand the power of like the NSA in its national surveillance, and obviously, as we've shown with Blinken. Sorry. Yeah. As we showed with him, we're going to really expand our war efforts. So war efforts and national security seems like the name of the game here.
Him together with Flournoy are like a deadly duo. Like I don't even want to try to wrap my head around what crazy shit they have in store for our military to do.
Yeah, it's definitely daunting. There's not much good to come out of this. I mean, there's not a pick that I look at and be like, wow, he's good pick. They're qualified. They have no history of trying to expand their department's power. There's no one that's really just a stand-up politician. Like I always use Tulsi as an example, but there's no Tulsi Gabbard in here. I mean, absolutely not. And I can quickly just to close it out, John Kerry, guys, he was on the board of oil companies, and he has lobbying money from Exxon and I'm sorry, that's not fair to say. I think it was Marathon, several oil companies. He has had millions of dollars. I estimated to be $4.7 million that he's made off of oil companies. So it's just a joke at that point. Like you nominated him as the I can't think of the name of the position, the climate guy.
Yeah, I don't know the name offhand. It's interesting too if you actually read what he says about climate change. It's all like, well, we need to tax carbon. Like that's his thing. um, uh, a few things that I meant to bring up before we wrap up. I thought Jimmy Dore covered this, but for anyone who hasn't heard it, like just how fucking unapologetically sleazy Biden has been with this whole thing. He literally tapped a former DuPont consultant to join his EPA transition board. Like a former consultant to DuPont, a massive chemical manufacturer, like has done untold damage to the environment. He's like, hey, you want to help me with my EPA transition board? And that's how these government agencies always are run. They take industry insiders and they say, hey, why don't you hand select who you want to be on this board so that the regulations they pass will be favorable to your industry. There's some exceptions here and there. It's not unilateral, but in general, that's how it goes. And to her credit, Erin Brockovich, the famous environmental activist, played on screen by Julia Roberts. She wrote an op-ed for The Guardian saying, "Dear Joe Biden, are you kidding me?" And I thought that was pretty cool. And I know we need to wrap up, but the last thing, I think she's kind of the least interesting, but she's the most hilariously, pathetically bad at being a politician. Neera Tanden, as director of the Office of Management and Budget. I mean, the way that both left, like quote unquote, supposedly progressive members of the Democratic Party and also Republicans are complaining about her nomination to be director of Office of Management and Budget. I'm wondering whether she'll be approved. But if she is approved, she'll be in charge of drafting up the federal government's budget. And she's so pathetic. She's so bad at this game. She literally suggested in private emails that were published by WikiLeaks, she literally suggested that the U.S. should be given oil as a thank you from the Middle East country it invades. Actually, yeah, fuck yeah, we this is pretty huge. This is such a oh my god, yeah, okay, we need to fucking share this because I think this really shows like how the elites think. It shows how our government works. So Jimmy Dore also covered this, but here, this is the original email from Neera Tanden to Faiz Shakir, Peter Jewell, Benjamin Armbruster, and NSIP Corps and PR Corps. Subject: should Libya pay us back? Quote from Neera Tanden: "We have a giant deficit. They have a lot of oil. Most Americans would choose not to engage in the world because of that deficit. If we want to continue to engage in the world, gestures like having oil-rich countries partially pay us back doesn't seem crazy to me. Do we prefer cuts to Head Start or WIC or Medicaid? Because we live in deficit politics, and that is what is happening and what will be happening even more." This is such like perfect neoliberal smug fuckery where it's she's talking about bombing the fuck out of this foreign nation and plundering their riches, It's just blatant imperialism. But she's trying to. It's the same thing that Blinken was doing, but it's just not as it's not as elegant. It's not as well crafted. And to his credit, Faiz Shakir in this internal email chain replied all and said, "I don't think it's fair that we create our own domestic problems and then ask other nations to pay for it. You see the adverse incentive problem here, right? If we think we can make money off an incursion, we'll do it. That's a serious policy slash messaging slash moral problem for our foreign policy, I think." This woman,
Who,
Neera Tanden,
who's Faiz
uh,
Shakir?
I don't know hardly anything about him, but I know that he, at some point, so this is 2011, so I guess he was part of the Obama administration at the time. Later on, he went on to be a major part of Bernie's campaign. That's the extent of anything I know about him, and I only know that because Jimmy explained it when he covered it. And Neera's just got like a fucking incredible, like greatest hits of just stupid fucking tweets. Okay, this one is one of my favorites. Like you really. So Neera Tanden hates Julian Assange because he leaked that email and other emails. He leaked an email. This was actually really interesting, where Neera in a private email was complaining during the 2016 election that even when she's obviously made a mistake, Hillary Clinton won't just own up to it and apologize for it. And how that alienates people. It makes her seem unrelatable. And she said that I think that this is worse than her dishonesty. So she was admitting, yeah, Hillary Clinton is notoriously dishonest, but she's saying that worse than her dishonesty in the public perspective is that that she can't even admit when she's wrong. And when she was called out about this, so that's an email that another Neera Tanden email that was leaked by WikiLeaks. And I believe that email was actually directly to John Podesta. No, I don't remember who that one was, but there was a separate email to John Podesta where she was literally saying, she was talking about how Michael Bloomberg tried to strong arm the New York Times into changing its coverage of him. And she said that she wasn't sure if they'd be similarly effective in getting the New York Times to take it easy on Hillary during the 2016 election. And she said if they don't comply, then what they should do, and this is in her words, she said we should use brown and women pundits on social media to smear the New York Times for their coverage of Hillary if they don't comply with the DNC's requests. So that email was also leaked by WikiLeaks. So Neera Tanden hates Julian Assange because he's revealed what a horrible, ladder-climbing, corporate elitist, neoliberal fascist she is. I was just like reaching in the bucket of as many different.
I think you nailed him. Yeah.
But this is my favorite tweet that I've seen from her. I apologize to everyone that I don't have the date on here. But she said, so again, she hates Julian Assange because Julian Assange through WikiLeaks has shown what a terrible human being she is. And she said, there are many cultists on this site, but the Assange cultists are the worst. Assange was the agent of a proto-fascist state, Russia, to undermine democracy. That is fascist behavior. Anyone on the left should abhor what he did, not celebrate it. And he's literally being tortured to death in a maximum security prison in England.
Wow.
Thanks, Neera.
Yeah, you're killing me with the Neera stuff here.
She's the most, like, these other picks you can almost respect for how successfully Machiavellian they are. Neera is just a fucking chump about this. Like, she's so transparent. Yeah, she was a strong supporter of Libyan intervention, saying Americans should chant for Gaddafi's ouster. She cheered on the intervention repeatedly on Twitter and then basically stop talking about it for years after it was clear that the whole thing was an utter fucking failure that cost many lives and violently destabilized the region. Then it was just like, oh, what are you talking about? What's Libya? Um, and then she also oh fuck, let me see if I can find this exact quote. Adult left in the room. Syria, Neera Tanden. This was just fucking. Oh, please don't. Oh no, they're not gonna show the. Oh my god, yeah, okay. The gray zone included it. Okay, this is a long episode, but fuck it.
Oh, that's okay. I probably need to go soon, but
Yeah, so do I. So this is what Neera Tanden on September 1st, 2013 had to say about Syria. On Syria, while I don't want to be the world's policeman, an unpoliced world is dangerous. The U.S. may be the only adult in the room left. Like, that country, one of the oldest countries on the planet. Like, its cities are literally referenced in the Bible, and we bombed it back to the fucking Stone Age. And this is what she had to say about it.
Wow.
It's incredible.
So she's going with I mean, the same with Blinken, and an unpoliced world is dangerous.
Exactly.
And if we don't do it, someone else will, and it's not going to be in our self-interest. Or if nobody does it, it's just going to be anarchy, chaos. The whole world's going to fall apart.
I really want to start reading Nazi speeches from the 1930s, because I'm guessing that they said similar things. Like, of course, you know, we don't, like, saying like, of course we don't want to harm the Jews, but like, we need to do something. I'm sure the Nazis said shit like that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, and there's other shit Neera has done too, but those were just that was like my mini highlight reel of, are you fucking kidding me? And people like Bill Kristol are saying, and Bill Kristol is like, I don't know what his career has been, but he's a figure on the far right. He's like a neocon figure, and he's endorsed her, saying, you know, I think she's the right pick for the job. And yeah, she will be in charge of drafting the federal government's budget. So all of these, well, at least the executive branches drafted the budget. But all these public programs that people are going to increasingly need if this pandemic goes on much longer. Neera Tanden, if she's approved, will be in charge of that. So fun stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that was a slog, and about twice as long as we wanted it to be, but we got through it, and I think that was pretty good. I think, in case any of our 5 listeners didn't know beforehand, this is awful, and this is just more of the same. We're going to have more war. There's going to be more corporate bailouts. There's going to be more mass surveillance. Everything you hated about Trump and everything you should have hated about Obama is just going to get worse under Biden. Judging from these cabinet picks.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, more war and more surveillance is kind of what I got out of it. I mean, so we'll see. But
21st century fascism. It's fascism, but it's fascism with iPhones and Grubhub. So it's like not as bad,
I mean, you got all the conveniences of capitalism. So
and capitalism tastes good sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no Chipotle in the Gulag. There was only goulash in the Gulag.
All right, Cody.
All right, Zach.
You gonna wrap it up?
Yeah. Thanks everybody. This has been fun. And I don't know. Stay classy, San Diego.
Solid. All right. See you guys.
All right. And